Hi guys, my name is Sage Bundy. I'm Ryan Bundy's daughter, and I recently prepared a speech for our FFA state convention, and I wanted to share it with you all because I think it's important to get the word out about the ranching crisis in Nevada and also nationwide, and why these ranchers are going out of business. The steadily dwindling numbers of farmers and ranchers within the state of Nevada has been a cause of growing concern over the last several years. In my home of Clark County alone, the number of ranchers on the land have reduced from 53 to just 1 in the last few decades. Why is this rapidly shrinking number a cause for massive distress? The biggest and most obvious reason is perhaps that farmers and ranchers are the hub on which modern society turns, influencing everybody from the average working American to the highest-ranking political leaders. As farmer and novelist Wendell Berry said, quote, "If you eat, you are involved in agriculture." And the involvement doesn't simply stop at food. Everything from food to flowers and from lumber to leather is influenced by and is a product of farming, ranching, or some other kind of agriculture. The brake fluid you use in your car, the film on which your photos are printed, the soap with which you wash your hands, the cotton in your clothes, they all lead back to the one industry on which all of humanity depends: agriculture. As a, quote, long-standing contributor to the state economy, a label given to the ranching industry by the Nevada Department of Agriculture, an agriculturally rich Nevada is a financially wealthy Nevada. In his 1995 paper, Dr. Tony Lesperance of the University of Nevada, Reno said, quote, "Every ranch animal represents economic wealth, not only to the ranch's owner, but also to the county. When a ranch loses access to some of the forage that has allowed it to support its cows or horses or sheep, that loss of forage and the resulting loss of animals not only constitutes an effective capital loss to the ranch, but also to the county where the ranch is part of the tax base." Dr. Lesperance goes on to explain the undeniably strong connection between cattle ranching and the economy, noting the vastly reduced ranching numbers from the early 1980s, which have only since increasingly worsened. He estimated that between the year 1982 and his current 1995, that the loss of money to the 6 cow counties of Nevada, which he lists as Nye, Humboldt, Elko, Lander, White Pine, and Eureka, could add up to be as much as $118 million. So, with the problem of many of Nevada's ranchers and farmers going out of business, comes the problem of fewer local food sources for our state's residents and a less stable economy. Additionally, the presence of ranchers and their cattle on the land is unbelievably good for the environment, with the cattle's grazing habits encouraging new plant growth and reducing wildfire risk, and the ranchers' contribution of water improvements providing a source of life that all on the range can profit from. While the residence of ranchers and their cattle on the land is unbelievably good for the environment, their absence is contrastingly devastating. With no animals to graze down the vegetation, overgrowth becomes a fire hazard, increasing the number of wildfires in the area. Water sources become more difficult to access, new plant growth becomes rare, and established plant growth begins to wither and die. If the picture of lack of land use is so bleak, then why is it that farmers and ranchers are going out of business and leaving the land? Why is it that in the last few decades alone, the number of land and range users have plummeted dramatically? One answer is found in the difficulty of the job. Farming and ranching relies a great deal on good weather, fertile soil, and on a healthy amount of luck. Livestock prices bounce up and down, creating an unpredictability in profits and expenses. An unexpected drought hits, causing crop failure. Bargains and purchases fall through, leaving an excess of product and an insufficiency in money. Any one of these situations can be enough to financially damage a rancher's business, and a combination of them could be lethal to it. On top of the normal wear and tear of the job, ranching is becoming increasingly restricted by new federal regulations and laws which are making the rangeland inaccessible to the livestock. The aforementioned Tony Lesperance stated that, quote, "The majority of livestock losses can be directly attributed to changes in management philosophy by the federal land management agencies, including the BLM and USFS. Changes in wilderness status, endangered species, wild horse management, and more recently the use of new proper use criteria have all contributed to this decline in the once healthy livestock industry." These organizations most much younger than the agricultural businesses they attack, have successfully driven many of our hardest working citizens out of the businesses that their families have been operating for several generations. So how is it that these agencies are able to swoop in and drive these ranchers out of business? Unfortunately, a degree of fault can be found in the ranchers themselves. As my father, Ryan Bundy, stated in a recent personal interview, quote, "Ignorance of the law is shrinking the industry." What is this law that so many ranchers seem to be ignorant of? How does it tie into the issue at hand? To answer the first question, the law that my father is referring to is the supreme law of our country, the Constitution. Specifically, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, the section on state land ownership. This section outlines the proper procedures for federal land ownership and also limits them on the land they can use and what it can be used for. It says that the federal government can only own land that it has purchased from the state, and it can only be used for things such as arsenals, dockyards, or other needful buildings, which may include things like post offices. As the federal government now claims to own almost 90% of Nevada, it is clear that they have far overstepped their bounds. So, how does this relate to our dilemma? Federal agencies, such as the BLM, come under the declaration of their right to our state's land and present contracts to the ranchers, which the ranchers often sign, not understanding the lack of authority from the organization. These agencies are then free to arrest the rancher under heavy taxes and fines until it goes out of business. Of this scenario, my father said, quote, "It can be remedied when they," speaking of the ranchers, "come to a realization of the truth." One of the most important steps towards a solution is realizing that a solution is possible. Many today may look towards leaders in high political positions to assist in building these numbers, and while it is important to have both local and nationwide backing from our people's representatives, the change truly begins with the local people, residents of the state of Nevada. It begins with an awareness of the problem and its cause and a willingness to do whatever it takes to fix it. Knowledge of proper jurisdiction on our state's public lands, encouragement of Nevada students to pursue agricultural careers, and the eradication of agencies that are driving our existing ranchers out of business are all part of the remedy. It is my hope that we as a community will unite and take part in the cure that will bring back our state's original agricultural foundation, build ranching numbers, and find encouragement and inspiration into your Kessler's words. Quote, "An industry that feeds you is an industry worth fighting for."